Growing up around North Manchester and the music that influenced him around that time, or several different times actually. And yeah, and maybe touch on a little bit about Colin's sort of love affair with all things Factory Records as well.
Yeah, really looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
People who were in the know about things that they're passionate about.
Yeah, bit of heritage, bit of Manchester heritage, I think. Indeed. And I think we've got a few classic, should I say classic?
We've got some great music coming up in that hour, influenced by Colin's book, I have to say.
Yeah. Influenced by Colin's book. Right, great. You're locked into What's the Score, Real Sound of the City, 808 if you want to get in touch. Start your message with the word Unity.
Unity Radio exclusive.
Studio is Colin Gibbons. Good afternoon, Colin.
Good afternoon, Danny.
Very, very pleased to have you in the studio here today. Colin has come in to chat about his book, which is called Manchester Music M9 Kidz. Showing it around the studio there. Colin, thanks again for coming in. Just got a few questions really to ask you about the book and your kind of journey behind it, and some of the sort of stories from it really, and just how you've sort of arrived at getting it out there. So, I mean, what inspired you to write the book really, I suppose, is the first question.
Well, I think it all started firstly about 2011 when I did the Factor exhibitions at the Juicy pub in, town there.
Yeah.
And
it's one near the co-op, isn't it?
Yeah. I did an exhibition there, and then the year after, through making connections with some of the Factory faithful fans and people who worked at Factory at the time, they said that it would be interesting to do another exhibition with some form of a catalogue, and would I write a narrative that would run in conjunction with that. So I sat down at a laptop, after being in the building trade for 30 odd years, and started tapping out a load of nonsense which I didn't think anyone would be interested in. But obviously when Factum did come out and the narrative was read, I started getting a lot of feedback, and I mean a lot of feedback from across the world really, Canada, Australia, Japan even. People wanted to hear that story, that expanded.
Yeah.
And so that's what I sat down and carried on doing really. I mean, this was basically finished in 2014.
Right.
But because I had a serious accident and at the time I wasn't able to do much more with it. But then again, a fan collective came in on board with this, and I think what you lads would know as crowd sharing nowadays.
Yeah.
I just put the word out on Facebook and raised a few grand to make this happen for the Forever Manchester charity.
Brilliant. I mean, it's amazing the pull that that music can have, really, isn't it? It's like you say, across the world, especially. Let's big up the city, especially Manchester music.
Of course,
it really does.
Yeah.
I mean, you go way back in the book, way back to your sort of childhood, and then a journey through several decades, really, all sort of intertwined with music. I found it fascinating, particularly spending some of my formative years around that area as well, knowing some of the characters in the book. How much of it was what you actually could recollect, and how much of it was kind of input from the many contributors that you've listed in the back?
Well, I could have probably put all that in, but the people that I did ask to contribute I felt needed to be heard, because the city of Manchester has postcodes in it, and we're from M9. I'm an M9 kid, and the kids that I knew and grew up with around there, who went on to be involved in exploits in music business, like your man Dermo, who was in Northside. You had Muzzo, Anthony Murray, who went on to be tour manager with the Happy Mondays. Macca became a manager of a band as well and ended up with the Lightning Seeds. All these kids grew up with me. And, even the famous footballer Alan Davis lived in the next street. He played for Man United. What more could you ask for if you're a red like myself? So, I knew these people. They all contributed to my life. I did the Factory thing, and I thought, if these people want to hear this expanded story, I'm going to build all this in. And I did go to a few characters who I knew could put. I mean, the Langley Wars, for instance, was a funny one by Fudge, Andy Cooper. I mean, he was discussing all that period when everyone was fighting at the time in the locality. So it was, it's evident that these people were part of that period, and I thought, bring them in, let them tell their story as well, because it is as important as anybody, not just myself. Everybody gets, is as important as one another, really.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to play the first track that's kind of influenced by Colin's book, really, in his journey. So this is Joy Division and Transmission.
Tweet the studio at Unity Radio FM.
Yes, we're back, and that was Joy Division and Transmission. We're back in the studio. We're with Colin Gibbons, and before that last track, we were just discussing a few points about Colin's book. I don't know, I'm looking at the book. A few points about Colin's book, Manchester Music and M9 Kidz. So, Colin, not many people might know that all the contributions from the sales of your book are going to something called Manchester Forever. Can you tell us what kind of influenced you to do that and a little bit behind it?
Well, the Forever Manchester charity came in on the second exhibition. Nick Massey, who's the director of said charity, he basically listened to an appeal from myself on Facebook again about holding another charitable exhibition, and the guy didn't mess about. He just responded and said, I want to come down and see this brilliant collection that you've amassed. So obviously he did. He brought a very good friend of mine now who's called Emma Sumner to see this collection, and this discussed how they could help me. I explained that I needed certain display units that they ended up funding. The insurance for the collection to go out does cost me a few quid to get it out for, and it has to be 24 hours secured as well while it's on site.
Yeah.
So those guys chipped in and helped, and I never forgot that, and because if someone stands on for me, I'll stand on for them, and that's why I've done this time. I think we did it for Christie's prior. I did it for Tony Wilson's.
That was the exhibition.
Yeah, the first one I did for Tony Wilson, what we could help to generate funds for the Christie's. So, obviously this one now was this is all about the Forever Manchester charity and what they did.
What kind of stuff do they do for Forever Manchester?
They help out all around Manchester in the amassed Greater Manchester area. They do everything. They help a lot of people. It's just basically a good fit. They're a good thing, a good bunch of people. And I spinned out of the offices. I've met most of them, and they all work bloody hard.
Yeah. No, brilliant. That's a great story and a great reason to go out and buy the book as well. We'll come on to that a little bit later, where you can actually get it from. We'll come back to the next track, which we're going to go for New Order and Run this time. And we'll be back after this.
Unity Radio exclusive. You're listening to Unity Radio, the real sound of the city. Broadcasting online at unityradio.fm, the app, DAB, and on 92.8 FM.
Yes, we're back, and you're listening to What's the Score, Unity Radio, and we're back in the studio. Still here with us is Colin Gibbons, and before that last break in the track, which was New Order and Run, by the way, we were talking about Colin's book, Manchester Music and M9 Kidz. I suppose the next bit we're going to discuss, Colin, is kind of my era, really, which was around the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and the kind of acid house scene that sprung up and was absolutely championed by Manchester, it's fair to say. And you cover in the book some people would say the lesser-known clubs, but if you were there around the time, they weren't really. But if you take it from a context of people looking into Manchester, they just think the Hacienda. But there was a whole plethora of other places, which arguably I would say kind of made the foundations for Manchester music more really, almost in the Hacienda.
Yeah, certainly. The Thunderdome obviously comes straight to mind with. What I managed to succeed in doing was get the DJs who played at the club in the dawn period of the club, like end of '88, early '89. Your man Steve Williams, Chris Jam, Tomlin, and our Jay Worden. All those guys were happy to help me out and be interviewed for the book, which was amazing for me because I was actually nobody. I'm nothing in the media or out like that, but they realised my passion and they wanted to be involved. Subsequently, 808 State came in the place as well, and they had a cracking night on a Friday night. Interviewed a couple of the lads out of the band for the book as well. And people have to realise that there was another club in Manchester that was doing the business, you know, but not just the Hacienda. And that them early days, well, there wasn't too many, you know. I mean, I actually never went in the kitchen, but I heard that was a decent place to go.
That's a place in Hume, wasn't it? Yeah, in the
I never went
flats.
in it. I do mention it, obviously, because of the DJ's connection with what their input to the book. But absolutely amazing time, which needed to be covered, and the fact that it exists, and like again, it's another North Manchester club. You know what I mean? Yeah,
and to me, it's important to put these places into the context in the way that music has been shaped over the last 20, 25 years, because you know, they really did create the foundation for a lot of the music that we play on, you know, that's played every day on Unity and all sorts of other different genres. So, you know, those were really the foundations for that kind of...
there was an evolution in this city, and, you know, all right, if you want to go back to the Sex Pistols and the Lesser Free Trade Hall and where all that kicked off from, well, the Manchester we have today, this cosmopolitan city, it obviously started with all that music and all our scenes. So, you know, we, as natives of the city, with an M9 postcode and you're a Mancunian, you know, or any M postcode, you would in part of that development, whether you liked it or not. And today is what we've got. You know, this is the city we've got, and, you know, we've got a lot to answer for us, you know what I mean?
I think if everybody who said they were there at the Free Trade Hall, it would only be about 6,000 people there or something like that.
Yeah.
There's only about 80 odd, wasn't there, or something?
There weren't many, was it, mate?
No.
There weren't many, and it has been written about. It's the literature's out there to prove otherwise. But, you know, what a smashing time it was for music.
Yeah.
And I think really now, there's a lot goes on in this city. My daughter's got a band as well that plays on and off in town. But they don't get what they should get, and they should be paid for what they do. And there's a lot of free nights going on in Manchester, which I disagree with, really, because these kids work hard at what they do. If you're a musician, you put a lot into it. You know, so they should get more from it.
And certainly, you know, championing local acts is something that we do, and got a long history of here at Unity. You know, and long may that continue, really.
Yeah.
Right, we're gonna have one more track, which is going to be related to that era we're talking about, and it's Two Bad Mice and Bomb Scare.
You're listening to Unity Radio, the real sound of the city.
Yes, you're back with us on What's the Score, and we've still got Colin here, and having a really interesting chat about Colin's book, Manchester Music and M9 Kidz. So just a final question, really, Colin, before we kind of wrap up the interview. Is there anything you've learned along the way of doing the book? Is there anything learned that you didn't know before you did it?
It's a partial of obviously it's an autobiography of myself. I had to work it round something when it had to be myself. As I was moving along with the story and interviewing people, obviously I did start learning a hell of a lot of things about the Manchester scene, which I didn't realise had gone on at the time. I was happy for those people, though, who obviously I did interview, to, you know, point them out. And which they duly did, and it's there to be read. But it was one thing I do find, and I'm happy about to this day, is that people do believe, they remember, the nostalgic, and they want to be part of things like this, and that's brilliant because it gives everybody hope. And you know, if this goes on to inspire somebody to do something like this themselves, I would be more than happy to, you know, give them that help or advice, or because it was an hard slog for me. But, you know, there are people out there who do what will help you and then generate interest in these subject matters, especially with it being Manchester of old. I mean, has changed considerably. I think you'll agree, all you lads, that this place has changed considerably. From, you know, walking through town on a Sunday back in 1980, you know, Market Street was a road, and it was full of newspapers flying about. The city was dead. You walk around it now, you know, it's a busy place.
And you know, you have to attribute a lot of it to the culture and the music and everything that came from that era, and to that attracted people to the city and the way it's developed.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I know you can get the book from Vinyl Revival, which is in town on Thomas Street.
Yeah, Northern Quarter.
In Vinyl Revival. Is there anywhere else you can pick it up from?
Yeah, you can buy it on eBay and Amazon. Obviously, like I've stated earlier, there's money being generated here towards the charity. We'll go to a good cause, and respect to everybody who gets involved and purchases it.
Yeah, and if you do buy it, I've got a copy, and I urge everyone to go out there and get one. As Colin says, it's for Forever Manchester charity. The contributions from the book. Make sure you take a picture of it and stick it on their Facebook page as well.
Yeah,
there's a little sort of cult growing about that. I've been looking at all the photos, at different locations.
The Leaning Tower of Pizza used to be.
Brilliant.
So it's on tour, that book now.
I'd just like to say thanks, Colin. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming in and chatting to us. It's really interesting. The book's fascinating.
Yeah, respect
so
for
thanks very much.
supporting it, lads. Respect to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. We're going to finish with a Banshee classic, Richie Havens, Going Back to My Roots.